Considering your announcement, it may be a little redundant. However, I don't have enough time to adjust my entire speech in light of that. So I'm going to go with what I have. I am sure you are well aware of the energy that has arisen around the increases in salary for our top administration. I know that I have received many emails and phone calls expressing a wide range of emotions. So I can only imagine that you have also received those communications. As a result of our members' responses, I need to address this with you tonight. Peter Drucker, famed writer and management consultant, once said, "Management is doing things right. Leadership is doing the right things." We believe top administration honestly tried to do the right thing when they originally came up with their percentages to cut their own salaries. They patterned their cuts on what EGEA agreed to in our 2-year agreement. However, even though the intent was to take a fair share of cuts, in reality, it is not. As you are well aware, EGEA agreed to 9 furlough days, compensation cuts, suspension of lottery, and a freeze and column movement for a total of over $19 million per year for 2 years. In addition, we made major changes to our health care plans by doubling our copays, eliminating dual coverage for medical benefits, reducing counseling services, as well as increasing our class sizes in elementary. There are 2 basic reasons why we structured the agreement with such a high percentage of cuts. 1, to cover the entire increased cost of health care benefits at a 10% increase for 2 years, and 2, to protect salary step to our newer members who would not take ongoing cuts that would permanently retard their career earnings. We did not devise this plan to protect the salaries of top-level management. It is true, we are all making sacrifices. Our most experienced teachers have sacrificed more during these 2 years than our less experienced teachers, and they should be commended for that sacrifice. They made sacrifices at the top to benefit those lower on the pay scale. We've heard 2 basic justifications from district management regarding superintendent and cabinet level increases. They say they took equivalent cuts to EGA, and EGA gets to keep their salary movement, so administration should keep their step movement as well. Inherently, this does not work. You cannot just take what EGA did and apply it to top-level administration. It just doesn't make sense. In reality, top-level administration is taking an average cut. This is not leadership. Leadership leads by example. Leadership should not take an average percent cut, but should, at the very minimum, take the largest percent cut of any of its employees. Percentage of compensation cuts compared to 2009-10 salary. You can clearly see all of our members have sacrificed more than the superintendent. Looking up here and looking at the superintendent. Higher cuts, lower cuts. Our members took percentage cuts in 2010-11 and 11-12. This was unfair last year, but even more egregious during the 2nd year of the agreement. Members on Step 19 will again take a 6.5% cut compared to their 2009-10 salary before the 2-year agreement. The superintendent will take a 1.2% cut compared to the salary he made in 2009-10. In actual numbers, his salary will be $8,500 more this year than last year. It is interesting that the district wants to use the average percentage when dealing with cuts during bad times, but does not use the same logic when dealing with salary increases during better times. Sorry for the glare. Before we had to make cuts starting in 2010-11, the superintendent's salary increased over 28% in his first 5 years. Roughly $198,000 to $255,000, while salary for an EGA member on Step 19 increased 5%, from roughly $78,000 to $82,000. And that 5% jump was the last increase on Step 19 since 2006-2007. I'm one of those H-Step teachers. 19 years. The average EGA salary increased only 11.2% over the same 5-year period for teachers gaining experience and educational advancement. If the top administration is going to compare itself to what EGA does in cuts, then why not do the same in terms of pay increases? The fact is, the top administrative, superintendent, and cabinet level salaries are not comparable to EGA. We can argue all the minutiae of these numbers and contracts and the belief of if you've got yours, I should get mine. But the real question is that your employees are asking, why, during the worst economic crisis in the state of California, are the superintendent and others in the top paid administrative positions receiving 3.5% annual step increases? The compounding numbers are hard for us to ignore. During the first 4 years of the superintendent's contract, he received a 24% increase in salary. Now, with your implementation of a 5-year step increase salary schedule, his salary will increase an additional 17.5%. That means, based on what you, the board, have approved, that in 5 years, the superintendent will have gone from approximately $198,000 to $290,000. That is a 47% increase. We as a district are right in the middle of the most severe cuts to education in decades. The district has issued layoff notices to hundreds of people 2 years in a row, are looking for its employees to make even larger concessions in salary and working conditions. You say our district is on the brink of financial disaster and that we may be taken over by the county as soon as December for an impending negative status budget created by your worst-case scenarios. In light of this being laid out before us, how do you expect your employees not to get upset by the simple justification that we modeled our increases after EGA's agreement? We do not want you to lead by following what EGA does. We do not want you to lead by doing what is average. We want you to lead by example, like the LA superintendent cutting his own salary 17%, or the Fresno County Schools superintendent who gave up his salary to protect programs, or the many other examples of superintendents and administrators across the state and country who have frozen their salaries or initiated sacrifices on their own. We know you think you did the right thing. We know you think you took equivalent cuts to EGA's membership. But the question really is, what are you going to do now? The district is once again projecting huge deficits for the next few years. There is no question that you will be looking at employee concessions to help solve the problem. But EGA is frustrated by trying to lead the way. EGA is frustrated with the district's insisting that it's still in mediation over our 2-year agreement. This last week, we had another mediation session, after which I can truly empathize with other districts who have been entrenched in the crazy-making process of positional bargaining, mediation, fact-finding, opposing, and strikes. 2 years ago, we came to an agreement through the PERB mediation process. That process has its benefits, but also has its downfalls. Now mediation has created an air of secrecy and lengthy legal exchanges. Several times during these school board meetings, it's been inferred that bargaining with employees ties the district's hands. I have to say that the district's insistence that we remain in mediation, despite the fact that the intent and the content of our 2-year agreement language has been met, is intentionally tying EGA's hands and impeding the bargaining process. Because we do not feel this is the best avenue to resolve our problems for 2012-13 and beyond, we will be filing with PERB the request to remove us from mediation. While we may continue to disagree with the way in which our 2-year agreement has been interpreted and handled, our best interest is to return to bargaining. We want to meet with the district to mutually solve our problems and meet both sides' interests. There is no doubt you will need our help and sacrifice to get through these difficult times. If you want that help, if you want our members to sacrifice for another year or 2 or more, you need to start by leading the example. As Eleanor Roosevelt said, it is not fair to ask of others what you are unwilling to do yourself.